right. Well, thank you for joining us today. It's 3:01, so we're going to get started. I know we'll have people joining us. We'll drop the sign-in link in the chat repeatedly, so if you haven't gotten a chance to get it yet, it will be there again. And so today we are focused on providing access to all learners by implementing Essential Practice 6. And that focuses on number sense routines. And today we're specifically going to focus on a number sense routine called Number Talks. My name is Shovein. I'm a math education consultant here at Wayne County RESA.
And hello, everyone. I am Kristi Hanby, also a math consultant at RESA.
Just a reminder, if you haven't done so already and you're interested in having the sketches for today's session, please make sure that you are filling out the sign-in link. There is no sign out link for today, so the sign-in is the only thing you really need to worry about, making sure you get filled out. Okay. So in today's session, we're going to be focusing on the following questions. What is a number talk routine? How do number talks support students' mathematical understanding? And we're going to do that by first participating in a number talk. Then we'll do an introduction to the essential instructional practices in mathematics. And then we'll take a look at instructional practice 6 today, which focuses on number sense routines. Okay, we are going to try a number talk. In a moment, when I switch to the next slide, there's going to be a dot image. It's only going to be up there for 3 seconds. We would like you to record in the chat, but please do not hit enter yet. We're going to do a waterfall once everybody has some time to think about how many dots they saw. And then we're going to ask you to be ready to share how you saw the dots. Does anybody have any questions about the routine? Okay, I'm going to switch over in just a second, and that 3 seconds goes really quickly. So hopefully you're able to see the screen. Right, now that you've had a chance to look at the dot image for what feels like a very quick 3 seconds, in the chat, please tell, how many dots did you see? All right, and taking a look at the chat, it looks like everybody that I could see responded with 8, and some people have shared their thinking already. And so the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is, how did you see them? So I have the dot image back up here, and wondering if anybody is feeling comfortable enough today to unmute and share their thinking about how they saw the dot images.
I seen 2 groups of 3 and then a group of 2.
Okay, so you saw
3 on top,
3 on
the
top,
bottom, 2 in the middle.
Okay, so, and then you had a 3 and a 3
And a 2.
and a 2, and all together you knew that made
8.
8. Excellent. There are lots of different ways that people see this, although I'm sure some of them saw the same exact way. What I would love to know now is if somebody else who saw it differently would like to unmute and explain their thinking.
Okay, mine's completely not mathy. I saw a boat. So each side had 3 dots, and then it had the dot in the front and then the person driving it. And so
Okay, so you saw a boat where there were like sides that had 3 dots in it, the front of the boat here, and then this would have been the person who was driving.
Yep.
Okay. So you saw it as a 3
picture.
plus a 3 plus a 1 plus a 1 and saw the 8 dots that way.
Yep.
That's great, because you are definitely going to have kids that are going to tell you that they saw it like a boat, or they saw it like a shape that was familiar to them. So I really appreciate you sharing that comment. Does anybody have a third way that they could describe how they saw the dots?
There's sort of an X made out of 5 that looks like the 5 on a number cube. And then there's 3 more besides that, like outside of the 5.
All right. That was the first way that I saw it was the 5, like the dot cube pattern jumped out to me, was very familiar. And then there were 3 more like around the outside. And I saw them as 3 individual. Did you see them individually or as a group of 3?
The 2 that are stacked, like at first I was like 2 and 1, but I was also like 1 and 1 and 1. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay. And I appreciate you clarifying that, because what we really want to do when we're recording people's thinking is make sure we're as accurate as possible. So you saw it as a group of 5 first, and then you saw a 2, and then a 1, which gave us, again, 8. So we all can agree that we're seeing 8 dots on the screen. Oops, let me make sure I clear my drawings. Okay, so we just did a number talk based on dot images. And so as you saw, I displayed the dot for 3 seconds. I gave you guys time to think and respond in the chat. If you're in a classroom setting, you might use hand signals to know when your students are ready, and we'll see an example of that later in our session today. I collected the answers. In this case, I was collecting them in the chat. In your classroom, you might write them on the board or on chart paper, whatever works best for your routine. Then I asked the follow-up question of how did you see them, to give you an opportunity to explain your thinking. And it also gives us an opportunity to see how other people think about the number combinations. And then finally, we agreed on a correct answer. In this case, we all thought it was 8 to start with, so there wasn't a whole lot of disagreement to really come back together on, but you will have times where you'll have quite a few different responses. And so it's important to take that last step to agree on a correct answer. So we've gotten to experience a number talk now, which is an example of a number sense routine. And now we're going to take a look at the essential practices in early mathematics. And they're designed for pre-K through grades 3, but this number sense routine can be used beyond 3rd grade. The goal of the Early Math Task Force was that children will develop agency in mathematics through exposure to cognitively engaging mathematical tasks in language-rich environments in order to advance their understanding of mathematics in ways that are responsive to their social context. And so this is a subcommittee of GLEN and MESA that came together and worked on putting the research together for best practices in mathematics.
I'm just going to jump in and we'll have a little conversation here at the beginning of the Essential Instructional Practices. And Dawn, if you wouldn't mind dropping a link to the document, I had forgotten to do that. The very beginning of the document, we talk about values, because our values really do shape our interactions with students. And so we wanted to be clear in the document that undergirding all of these research-based practices are these things that we want to ensure that we are valuing about children. So I'm going to give you just a moment to read those 5 values that are on the screen. And if you go to the Early Math Essentials, you're going to find them at the bottom right-hand corner of the front page. So I'm going to just be quiet for a moment while you read values 1 through 5. So hopefully those are some values that resonate for you as an educator, really seeing your students as contributors and knowers and doers of mathematics, respecting their diversity in a way that really enriches the classroom, and engaging them in really collaborative and creative ways. And so we're just going to ask you, as you think about those values, if these are the values that we hold, what would be the impact on students, right? So if all educators were to hold these values, what would be the impact on students? And when you've had a moment to think about that, we're going to have you put a note in the chat. What would be the impact on our students? confidence. And without this fear, willing to take risks. Yes, everyone feeling included. That's part of our presentation today, how to be equitable in our participation. Yeah, not feeling like there's judgment, but like we're all here learning together. And so we're going to feel safe. We're going to take risks. We're not going to have later in life PTSD. Thank you, whoever put that. And it should lead to engagement, right? Because I want to jump in and figure things out. And I'm willing to do it knowing that it might be messy at first, but we're working on it together. I didn't get a chance to read all of those. They were coming up pretty quickly, but thank you so much for all that you did share. That's really what we're aspiring to with the essentials. And so it's really great to hear your thoughts on that. So just one more thing to say about the document, especially if this is one of the first times that you're taking a look at it, understanding the structure of the document can be helpful in sort of organizing the way that you kind of navigate your way through it. And so what you're going to find is that essentials 1 through 3 are really focused on the design and the way that we interact in the learning environment. So a lot of what you just said, like how do we set up an environment so that this is what we see students doing? Essential 4 is an essential just focused on formative assessment. And then essentials 5 through 7 are those instructional routines that we implement in the classroom in order to really engage students in mathematical learning. And then finally, essential 8 is working purposefully and productively with families and caregivers as partners in that learning process. Right? So in what ways can our families and communities help in building these robust learners? So as Dawn said, we're going to focus today on essential 6, which is one of the instructional routines from that category of 5 through 7. And as we do that, when we get to the end, we're going to look back and reflect on essential 3, which is equitable participation, and ask ourselves, in what way does a number sense routine also support this learning environment of having equitable participation? Right? So that's sort of our roadmap for the next 45 minutes or so. And I will hand it over to Dawn.
All right, so we're taking a look at instructional practice 6 today, which is engaging children regularly in a brief 5 to 10 minute interactive number sense routine that focuses on developing mental strategies for seeing quantity and working flexibly with numbers. So you experienced a dot image number talk. We are going to take a look at instructional practice 6. And at the top, you see the heading. The light purple, or it kind of looks gray sometimes to me, gives you sort of the steps that are followed in a number sense routine. And then the black bullets really give you some information about, if you're doing this number sense routine, what are some of the things that students are doing and engaging with? And if you just joined us recently, Kristi dropped in the chat, again, the sign-in sheet. And I'm going to drop the essentials document because I know it can be hard to read if you are on a phone or looking at our screens. So we're just going to give you a couple minutes here to read over those bullets. There we go. Now it's letting me hit enter. So I'm going to pose a question for you to think about and respond to in the chat if you've had a chance to read it over already. And thinking about how this number sense routine is described, and in thinking about, if you were here at the beginning, the dot image number talk we went through. How does that routine help provide access to all the learners? There may be more than just one way to solve a math problem. They're seeing that visually. All students can participate in some way. They can hear others thinking, they can revisit others thinking, they can expand on their own ideas. It gives them an opportunity to share their way of seeing things and how they got the answer. They have a choice in solution methods. There are no wrong answers. Connections between strategies. Yeah, this is a great routine for that. There's lots of time to think and share and discuss. Wonderful. These are all great comments. So RISA has created a framework for mathematics instruction. And today we're really focused on the number sense routine element, and that comes right here. And that's Essential Practice 6, which is really focused on building procedural fluency from conceptual understanding. So we're going to take a look at a specific type of number sense routine, number talks today. Although, and I want to lift this, although in the vision, the number sense routine image is coming first, we know that in elementary classrooms, sometimes you have weird chunks of time in your day, or you only have just enough to do your core part of your math lesson or a math task. The number sense routine doesn't have to be right at the beginning of your math block. It can come in that weird chunk of time you have between special and lunch. It can come after breakfast. It can come at any point during your day. Just as you're thinking about planning your schedule, that's something to keep in mind, that it doesn't have to be right at the beginning. So what are number talks? They're a short, ongoing daily routine that provides students with meaningful, sustained practice in computation. Classroom conversations and discussions are crafted around these problems. So it's really about students doing some mental math work and then having a conversation that helps students connect different strategies. Why use a number talk? It builds students' number sense and proficiency with many concepts in mathematics. And it relates concepts by lifting mathematical connections between multiple strategies and allows students to transfer their understanding. So a general number talk routine. We looked more specifically at a dotted image. Oftentimes these are bare number problems, especially as you're getting into like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Find a location in your classroom that works for you. We're going to take a look at a video from a Wayne County classroom in a little bit, and the teacher has them at the carpet with a flip chart. I've seen it done in all different ways in classrooms, but there's usually a specific location that they always go to when you do a number talk, if that's a possibility in your classroom. They last 10 to 12 minutes total. Some days are shorter, some days are longer, and it also depends if you're a kindergarten teacher and you're doing dot images, it's probably not going to last 12 minutes every time. They're daily, ideally in a K-5 environment. If you happen to be a middle school teacher or somebody on kind of a block middle school style schedule, we know you have less time together. So every other day is ideal if you can make it happen. But in general, we just want to see number sense routines happening in classrooms. So if you're feeling like your schedule is a reason not to do it, whenever you can get it in is great. Make sure you're providing appropriate wait time for students. Often you'll see teachers, and you'll see it in the video, they give a thumb up in the classroom where the students have one strategy and multiple fingers when they have more. And that's just kind of a visual cue about how much wait time your students need. All answers are accepted. All the students' answers get placed on the board. And it encourages student communication. The focus is really on defending the answers and having the group come to a consensus about the correct response by using mathematical justifications. So in a moment, we're going to take a look at a video from a Wayne County classroom. And I just want to establish some norms before we take a look. Assume there are many things you don't know about the students, the classroom, the shared history of the teacher, and the students on the video. Assume good intent and expertise on the part of the teacher. And we're really going to keep our observations focused on what's the teacher doing, what's the students doing, and then we're going to connect that back to instructional practice 6. The first clip here, let me switch my settings real quick to make sure everybody can hear everything. All right, in the first clip here, it's just the very start of the routine. It's about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes long, and then we're going to come back together and just think about what's happening at the very beginning that's setting the stage.
$56 minus 12. 56 minus 12. Liam S., what's the difference of 56 minus 12?
44.
44. Ryan, what's the difference of 56 minus 12?
44.
We've got another. Araya, what's the difference of 56 minus 12?
44.
44. Did anybody get something that was not 44? What did you get, Aiden?
I was just going to ask move away from Zion.
Okay, go ahead. Did anybody get something that was not 44? What do we say?
It's unanimous!
All right, friends, defend your answer, turn and learn.
I got 44. So that
You guys got 44?
Yeah.
What'd you do? Who wants to share their strategy?
So what I did is I started with 46, and then I did 40.
You started with 56?
And then I did 56 minus 10 from the 12, and I got 46, and then I did 46 minus 2, and I got 44.
Cool. You did the same thing? What'd you do?
I have it down. Then I got and then 110, and I did 5 tens minus 110, and I got 4 tens, and then I did it, and I had 6 ones and 2 ones, and I did 6 ones minus 2 ones, and I got 1, and then I added them together, and I take 1.
Good. All right, who would like to?
All right, in that clip, what was the teacher doing? If you'd like to unmute and share or type in the chat, that's fine. What was the teacher doing? Allowing for thinking time, asking students to explain their thinking. She was listening to the students, doing some questioning, observing the students' answers, their strategies, conferring with students, reinforcing their ideas. Yeah, she gave the students time to solve the problem and then was asking them questions about their strategies. I've seen quite a few people lifting that she was listening. She was getting down on their level. She shared the problem. She gave them wait time. She was clarifying when needed. These are all wonderful observations. So in this time, we've talked about what the teacher was doing. What did you notice the students doing?
So I'm going to unmute and share. When they did the turn and talk real quick, one of the things that for the accountable discourse of it all, the little girl in the green was kind of doing her hand back and forth between her and the other girl. And that's one of the, I had just recently did some study on this, and that's, the kids are always engaged in what everybody else is saying. And so they do a thumbs up for I have an idea, but that back and forth is I agree with what you're saying. And so the kids are always actively engaged because they're always doing something, listening and agreeing or disagreeing. So I loved that that was in here.
Yeah, you picked up on that hand signal as I agree. And so she was agreeing with her classmates that were talking. They were listening to each other. They were sharing strategies with each other. They were connecting in small groups to each other's ideas. They were showing that they were ready to solve problems with thumbs up. Yes, it was clear this is a routine because they did start talking immediately. So this is definitely a practice routine in the classroom. And of course, this doesn't happen overnight. So if you're trying number talks the first week of school, it definitely takes some time and practice to get into the routine, but it's a great routine to start that first week. We're going to take a look now at a second part of this clip.
56.
Sorry, guys. The video is just taking me a second. Okay, we're going to take a look at a second part of this clip. This point, she's recording the students thinking, and there's going to be 3 students whose ideas she's pulling up to the board and sharing and recording for. And again, we're just focused on what do you notice the teacher doing and what are the students doing in response here.
All right, who would like to share their strategy? Ryan.
What I did was I decomposed the 12 into 10 and 2. I did 56 minus 2 equals 54, and 54 minus 10 equals 44.
All right, who can repeat Ryan's strategy? Dalen.
The 12 into 10 and then 2, let's get 56 minus 2 equals 54, and 54 minus 10 equals 40.
Good. You guys, why did Ryan have to do 56 minus 2 and 54 minus 10 to find the difference of 56 minus 12? Why did she have to do these things right here? Valeria?
Because she had the 2, she had decomposed the 10 into 10. She had to decompose the 12 into 10 and 2, and she had to subtract.
So she decomposed the 12 into 10 and 2. Just like Valeria said, instead of subtracting 12, she broke it into 10 and 2. She subtracted 2 first and then the 10. Who has a different strategy they'd like to share? Alicia?
So how I got 44 was I made 5 base 10 blocks and I made 6 ones. Well, since I have to subtract 12, I subtracted 110 from my 50s and I had 40 left, and I subtracted 2 from my ones and I was left with 4. So, and then I did 40 plus 4 and I got 44.
Very nice. Boys and girls, why did Alicia have to add 40 plus 4 to find the difference of 56 minus 12? Why'd she have to do this down here? Maddie?
Because she had 4 10s and she had 4 1s.
Absolutely.
I had to add them to get the total.
Good. So after she did her subtraction, she took away her 10 and she was left with 4 10s. Like Maddie said, she took away her 2 1s and she was left with 4 1s. So to figure out the difference here, she had to put those together and she got 44. Who has a different strategy? Araya?
So what I did is I took the 56 and I decomposed it into 40 and 16. Then I did 40 minus 12 equals 30. I mean 29. And then I did 20. I feel confused right now.
Okay, so you guys, what do you think about what Araya is doing right now? What would be our next step, or what is something that we would need to do differently? Liam Penn.
Well, she could kind of still go on, but I feel like it would be hard to do 29 plus 16.
Okay. So what would you suggest we do?
I would suggest that we divide 56 into 50 and 6.
Okay, so if we turned this into easier numbers to work with, maybe instead of 40 and 16, do you think that would be helpful, Araya, if we did 50 and 6 like Liam's suggesting? So let's try that. So what would we have to do next, Araya, if we decomposed 56 into 50 and 6? What would we do next?
50 minus 11. 12, I mean.
Okay, 50 minus 12.
Equals 39. 49 to 6 equals. Wait, no, I messed up on the other one. It's 38 and not 39.
Okay. So then we wouldn't do 39 plus 6, we do 38 plus 6.
That equals 44.
Very nice. So I'm going to add Liam too, because that was kind of a teamwork. So you guys at the end here.
Liam P.
Oh my goodness. There we go.
Liam S.
At the end here, Araya added 38 plus 6. Why did she have to add this? Why did she have to do addition to help her find the difference of 56 plus 12? What did she have to do that for, Jordan?
Because in subtraction, when you decompose the bigger number at the end, you need to add it back.
Because are we just subtracting from 50?
No.
What were we subtracting from, Jordan?
We were subtracting from 56.
So we had to add it back. Very nice. You guys ready for the next one?
Before it starts playing again.
Yeah, so I'm noticing some of the comments that you've been putting in the chat, the things that you're noticing about the student interactions, how the teacher is allowing for those mistakes, but as the students talk, they're also self-correcting. Oh, sorry, Dawn, you probably want to ask 2 questions before I jump in with anything more.
No, that's fine. There have been so many great comments that have been coming up throughout the video, and that was very exciting to see. So we're just going to repose these couple of questions, and I know some of you have already answered or added observations about things you noticed. So what was the teacher doing in this video? What did you notice in this segment that the teacher was doing? Yeah, the teachers created a very safe space. These students were really comfortable sharing their thinking. She was allowing the students to do the math. She was giving the students credit for their thinking. Excellent. She notates student strategies and then has students paraphrase. She's always supporting the students by giving them time to self-correct and not creating any judgment. She's transcribing their strategies, their space for productive struggle. These are such great observations. Yes, she is writing exactly what the students are saying, whether it was correct or not. And then she was going back and correcting it as the students corrected themselves. So that is a great observation. What were the students doing during this time? The students were developing their own strategies, but also suggesting strategies in a learning community. There was definitely a huge element of teamwork there. And you could really tell that was part of their routine. The students didn't interrupt when answering when somebody was wrong. You could tell they were thinking actively based off some of their gestures about what other students were doing in the classroom. They were listening to each other's strategies. They were thinking and sharing. They were engaged in the mathematics, even if they weren't the one that was sharing at the time. The students are telling her, the teacher's not telling the students. Yep, she's recording what they're saying. They're making sense of the strategies. You could see some cues that the students were agreeing. There was some nodding going on. And when they were disagreeing, you could see some cues, but not in any type of a disruptive manner. There was just a lot of engagement that you could see from the students, even when they weren't the ones that were sharing at the time. Well, thank you for all your wonderful contributions.
All right, who would like to share?
Here we go.
Right. So we're going to take a moment just to focus on some of the questions that the teacher used. And we have this document. In a moment, I'll drop it in the chat for you. But for now, you can just focus on what's on the screen. There's actually 4 goals of talk during a number talk. And you can see them there to clarify and share students' thinking, to orient to the thinking of others, to deepen their reasoning, and then to engage with the reasoning of others. So I wonder if you can think back and think of any of the questions that the teacher used in order to meet any of these goals. So do you recall her asking anything that would have met these goals? She asked students to explain how others, so she said, who can repeat what Ryan said? Yeah, who can repeat? And so it's some participation in listening and repeating back. Why would we do that? Is a deepening that reasoning question. So why would we have to subtract the 10 and the 2? Right? When she brought Liam in to help, she was saying, who can come in here and help? So you've been listening to this conversation. How can you come in and help? And then they really started working together as a community at that point. Yeah. And I loved, it goes back to what you said earlier in this video when one student says, oh, I think I messed up. And they all just jump in and they're working through it together. Just something to note in mathematics, we ask a lot of questions, but sometimes we tell students. And so as a way to help you kind of separate out the two, we ask when it's about a conceptual idea. And that's a lot of the time. And so we would ask a question like, how do you know that there's 3/3 in a whole? Because we want to deepen their reasoning around that fraction sense. Just like this teacher asked, why do we add the 40 and the 4 at that point? Right. And so we ask a lot of questions. Occasionally we tell when it's about notation or something that we want to kind of help them see how mathematicians write it. And so I didn't see a lot of that in this video. And so you're really going to ask yourself how you can use questioning to really lift student ideas. I'm going to drop a few documents into the chat now. One of them is this Talk Moves document. The other one is a set of sentence stems that you can use in your classroom to encourage students to use language in a community together.
In the chat, somebody else mentioned, why do we do addition for a subtraction problem? And I wanted to lift that connection as well, because she was using this subtraction problem and using the students' thinking to help make a connection between those representations. So she was helping students deepening their own reasoning that way by having them kind of make that connection. The document doesn't exist.
I will work on the document. Thank you for letting me know, Sharon.
while Kristi's working on the document share, we will take a look at what's coming next. So again, we're here today to talk about Essential Practice 6. We've really focused in on one specific type of number sense routine and number talk. And so what I'd like to do is just take a minute. If it's easier again for you to open up the document that we dropped the link for earlier for the essentials, please feel free to do so. But what were the bullets from Essential Practice 6 that you saw present in the number talk video today? What were some of the things in these number sense routines from Essential Practice 6 that you saw when the teacher implemented the number talk?
Well, I'm going to talk instead of chat, but down at the bottom where it says encourage children to develop their own strategies to solve these problems in ways that make sense to them without telling children a specific procedure to use.
Yeah, it was structured in such a way that it was really encouraging students to think about their own strategies.
Yeah, she didn't tell them, okay, take your 50 minus your 10 and then minus 2. She let them do it completely on their own.
Yeah. She let them do it in the way that worked for them and then elevated those ways, that the different ways that students chose to use. She encouraged students to develop their own strategies. Excellent. The notating strategies and notating student thinking was very present there. She had those 3 examples still up on the board so that the students could make connections. She wasn't just doing one example, erasing it, and having a second student share. And that by having all 3 of their thinking visible, it really helps for making connections around that problem.
I think at the bottom where it says emphasize sense making and de-emphasize speed, I think she did a wonderful job of that. It was definitely, a little bit of a longer, oh, sorry, that's my daughter. Definitely a bit of a longer time spent on working through 3 problems, but I think that she really took the time to highlight every strategy and make sure it made sense for the entire class.
Yes. Yep. This routine and the way that she did the number talk in her classroom really did de-emphasize speed and really focused on sense making. It is a lot of time to take on one problem. That was about 10 minutes in total. But the emphasis on the sense making was really there. The sharing their strategies, the community discussion was there. It was worth taking that time to really help students make and see the connections. So many great comments in the chat of things that were lifted. The children taking a minute to think individually, the teachers notating, students are repeating other students' strategies, which is really helping them deepen their own understanding. It's a non-judgmental learning community. The allowing for students to make mistakes, that was excellent. And she gave ownership to the students because she had their names next to their thinking. That student ownership piece was right there and visible and present.
Can I share my experience? Sure. I'm 3rd grade. I started number talks in February last year. It is crazy awesome. And it seems like you're taking away from what you have to teach, and it takes time for the routine. But I'm here to tell you, once you develop that routine, I can get 3 different math problems done in like 15 minutes because it's become such a routine, and they're quick at sharing. And it's not about the speed, but they get so used to the routine and so used to thinking math, numbers, and vocabulary that they just get quick at it. It seems like a daunting task. Oh my gosh, I got to add that in and I don't have enough time. They get so used to it. It really is like 15 minutes. So I just wanted to say that. It's amazing. Just.
We really appreciate you sharing that. It really is amazing how much you see your students grow in their strategy use, and how it does, like any new routine, take a little while to set up. But once that routine's there and the students get used to justifying their thinking and sharing their variety of strategies, it just provides so much access for all the students in your classroom, which actually leads us very nicely into our next question. So what intentional structures were in place within this classroom that allowed all the students to access the mathematical content during the number talk? Wait time was huge. Yep. Students know the expectations. They're not talking over each other. There were hand signals they could use to communicate. There was the norm of one person talking at a time, but others were still engaging with the content. The routine of allowing everyone to finish their speaking. The automaticness of the routine. There's clearly been a lot of practice there, and the kids know what to expect. Everyone was brought into the group so everyone could see. The answers were written and not erased. They were visible for everyone to make connections to. Everyone could see the problem from where they were sitting. That's very important. It was structured in such a way that they all had access to see the problem as well as the other student thinking. The strategies were explored by the whole group. All the students were engaged when they were on the carpet. There was obviously some practice with the turning and talking, and you're not hearing any students looking at each other and saying, no, you're wrong. There's respect for everyone's thinking. Yeah. Even when the student chose a complicated strategy, it was a very polite redirect by another student. And you could tell that was the norm. I don't know if you guys were able to hear it quite so clearly, but she said, I think I need help, or I'm stuck. She had some type of phrase where she felt comfortable reaching out to the other kids in her class for that support. I can't remember exactly what she said. Kristi, do you know off the top of your head what she said?
I don't.
Students were thinking individually and they engaged in collaboration. Yeah, so there were two types of things happening here. They had that individual time to think about it, but they're also engaged in the mathematics collaboratively. These have been some fantastic comments. And they're actually leading us once again very nicely into our connection back to the values. So we started with the values because they are so foundational to all of the instructional practices. What did you see in the number talk video that connected back to the values from the essential practice document? And if you're joining us late, you might have missed a little bit when we were talking about the values at the beginning. They're on the front page of the document. And if you ever want to learn more about them, there's some details from page 7 and beyond. Learning math in a variety of ways. Yeah, we definitely saw a variety of creative strategies. Seeing themselves as contributors and doers of mathematics. Their names were right up there with their creative solutions. Creativity and collaboration. It was entirely focused on sense making and solving the problem. And there were multiple ways that they were doing it, showing that there was more than one way. That's one of the things I love most about number talks is how creative kids can be. And that connection, that math is a creative subject. It's not necessarily a fast thing. Students were driving the progression of the strategies. And so value 5, I think, although we don't necessarily see how it was established within the classroom. But there's definitely a connection and care, and there's authentic relationships there. The kids obviously feel comfortable enough to share. They're comfortable enough to ask each other for support. And it's really great to see that connection between the student, the teacher, and the problem. Yeah, these are all wonderful observations. In the chat, Kristi's going to drop a link that will have the hyperlinks to a variety of different resources for whole number talks. I'm just going to show real quick, especially if you're a third grade teacher and you're doing multiplication and arrays, there is this number talk images and there are photos here. There are, oh, my computer's taking a moment to load. A million great photos that you can use for number talks as well that are beyond just the dot images or beyond just bare number problems. So this is one of my favorites to think about and wanting to make sure that if you haven't seen this before, it's something you can build into your practice or think about for number talk routines. There's also a lot of other resources on here. I encourage you to check out the splats if you haven't, or if you've been doing number talks for a while. Those can be really great for students to see combinations of numbers. Let us know if you're having any issues opening those resources. We want to make sure you have them today so that you can think about using them in your classrooms this fall. Okay. Yeah. You could definitely have your students create their own number talk array images, and they would love that as a project, I'm sure. They start noticing, like when you use some of those images from outside in the world, they start noticing the math around them more in the world and think about different representations of arrays in the real world or different combinations of numbers. So those real life images are an awesome way to get started with that. And thinking about one of the many things we offer at RISA, we do offer some courses that are more detailed than just this 1 hour on, or less than an hour on number sense routines. These are courses in Moodle, so they're self-paced, and we offer them 4 times a year. The first session's already going right now. There's 2 different groups. There's one on whole number computation, which focuses on K-5. And then there's another one for fractions, decimals, and percents that's applicable like 4th, 5th through middle school. And those courses come with a book and some resources as well. And the book is Number Talks by Sherry Parrish. You've seen the images of it earlier in the presentation. And so that is a great thing if you're interested in thinking more in-depthly, or if you are looking for something to do with your PLC grade level for part of the year, to have a group study on. We also offer courses related to kind of practice opportunities and intervention in mathematics. Often these are funded by MySTEM, so there's no additional cost for your district, which is always great. MTSS in addition and subtraction is AVMR 1, and that has no prerequisites, and MTSS in fractions does not either. If you are interested in place value multiplication and division, you do have to take addition and subtraction first. And then we also have some course offerings that go across the entire vision. We have equity in mathematics, secondary math leaders, if you're a high school person who has joined us today. We also have math leaders for K-8, learning, planning, and leading. That really focuses on best practice in mathematics and continuing to dive deeper into math tasks that promote reasoning and number sense routines. Kristi, is there anything you'd like to add?
I've dropped a link in the chat if you didn't want to use the QR code that will help you search our catalog. I would search some of the specific terms that you saw, but like number for number talks and MTSS, and then just math in general will tend to bring up anything that we offer throughout the year.
And so I just want to say thank you for joining us today. Again, my name is Dawn Shovein. I'm a math education consultant here at Wayne RISA. I focus mostly on like pre-K through elementary.
And I'm Kristi Hanby, and I do some elementary and also work in middle schools. We are always available for support or questions that you might have. And so if there's anything that we can do to help you thinking about number sense routines or any aspect of your mathematics block, please feel free to reach out and ask us. We appreciate you spending an hour with us this afternoon. Thank you very much. Great conversation.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate all the wonderful things you've shared today.
Thank you.
One last thing, if you didn't get a chance to sign in, it's in the chat somewhere. I'll drop it in a second. And also, I think anybody who attended or registered will get all of the links that got sent out. So if you didn't happen to catch those in the chat, I think they'll get sent to you because you were registered for the event. I will go get the sign-in link though, for anybody who needs that real quick.
And then as you are implementing number talks in your classroom this year, if you're running into questions or you want clarification around anything, please send us an email, or if you have great examples of student work and thinking, we always love to see number talks in action. So we're always happy if you want to send us some of the work your students are doing. We love to be able to take a look at it and share some of the best strategies that you're developing in your classrooms.
Yes, thank you. Can I add to that? We think that teachers really appreciate seeing examples of real classrooms from our county. And so we are thankful to Chelsea Jenks, who shared iPhone video. Somebody sat in her classroom that day and took video of her number talk. But we really try to partner with teachers because we think that you learn from each other really well. So if you're willing to do that, please reach out and let us know.
And also, if you are interested in taking the Moodle course, we have other video examples that are within there. So you're not going to sit through all the same video clips. We tried to make sure that that you're getting to see as many different classrooms in Wayne County as possible.
Can I recommend the Number Talk book? It is fantastic.
Yep.
It really, it gives you a scaffold of numbers to use, and you can start, where you're at, and it gives various different grades in there. And that way you don't have to think of them the day before.
Exactly.
It's there. I make a copy of where I'm at, make a copy of the page, and I put it on my board, and I just put it on my board, write it over. This is one we're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
And then I cross it off, and after we're done, and then the next day I go to the next one. But it's very, very helpful. And it scaffolds, which I love.
And that's the Number Talk whole number computation book, and that's by Sherry Parrish. And then there's also a fraction, decimals, and percents. And if you do happen to sign up for the Moodle course, these books will be shipped to you. But if you're interested in kind of an independent study or wanting to get started right away with it, it really is a great resource. You can kind of search based off what your learning needs are and the needs of your students, and it'll give you number strings and kind of goes more in depth.
I did have a curriculum director tell me this week he found them cheapest through Heinemann. Great, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us today and participating.